What is up, everybody? We are coming to you, and it is 12:35 a.m. We just wrapped up Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris's press conference discussing the first-round pick, which was Michael Penix Jr. from Washington, a quarterback. Falcons already have a quarterback. Kirk Cousins is QB1.
You're diving right in.
I mean, there's no Terrin Walks here, Derek Rackley's here, I'm Tori McElhaney. We're getting right into this. Team no sleep over here. But no, I really do want to jump right in because this is a pick that has been met with a lot of disdain, a lot of question marks, a lot of anger and frustration to a certain extent from the fan base and just from things that I'm seeing also across the league. Mm-hmm. So for you guys, as you're sitting there and you're watching everything unfold, how do you look at this?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I have a friend of mine that was in Detroit covering the draft on radio, and he texts me and he goes, Atlanta's about to shock the world. And I was like, is that just you like going out on a limb, or do you know something that I don't know? And then like 60 seconds later, they picked Michael Penix. And I was like, oh, that's what he was talking about. But it's one that kind of came out of left field because nobody was mocking him to Atlanta because of their free agent signing of Kirk Cousins.
At least not in the first round. At least not with number 8 overall.
Correct. So, you know, and I kind of look at things now like, of course, I played for this organization. It was a long time ago. But as an analyst and doing it as long as I have, I always just kind of look at things more professionally. Like I don't have anything pulling me like from a heartstring or from a perspective that I used to play here. And so, they have to do this. Like I just kind of call it how I see it now, right? Mm-hmm. And so my buddy was like, the people in Atlanta are going to go crazy. And I was like, okay. And he was like, and Cousins got to be upset. And I was like, well, I think he's probably got 90 or 100 million reasons not to be upset, first of all. Second of all, what this told me, with this move, the first thing that I thought about was I thought about the last 2 years at the quarterback position. And to me, this is Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris saying quarterback is not going to be an issue for this organization moving forward. And I can respect that. Because everybody that has any kind of brains about the National Football League is going to tell you cannot win football games without a quarterback. And guess what? You got a chance of winning more football games if you have 2 quarterbacks. Because we know Kirk Cousins coming off an injury, and we know that crazy things can happen. He could get hurt again, and then you're kind of back to square one or where we were in 2023. Now, whether or not Michael Penix Jr. would be ready to contribute and win football games right now, I don't know. But what I do know is that he's got a chance to sit in the meeting room and watch tape and learn from a guy that's probably one of the most smart, cerebral, reading NFL defenses and proven successful quarterbacks in the league right now. Yes, I'm not going to put him in the same conversation as a Patrick Mahomes because of what he's done or even the Tom Brady's of the world, but Kirk Cousins' resume speaks for itself. And for Michael Penix to be able to sit in the quarterback meeting room and to listen how Kirk Cousins looks at the defense, what triggers him to throw a slant route versus a fade route versus sliding this ball in between a corner and a safety is going to be invaluable for that young man. Even though he's done it on the college level, as we all know, this things step up to another level in the National Football League. Windows get tighter, everybody's fast, everybody anticipates, and defensive backs in the NFL are so smart. They're going to make you pay for it. Look what Jesse Bates did last year on the defensive side of the ball. So the fact that Michael Penix can learn from a guy like Kirk Cousins and the organization saying, Kirk is our starter, but this guy has a chance to learn for the next few years, I think it's a good move. I really do.
My ears perked up when you said Patrick Mahomes because I think something that stood out to me in your story, Tori, that rhymed, was that Penix was the first player since Patrick to have 4,000 passing yards in back-to-back seasons in college. Not that that necessarily means one thing is going to lead to another, but like that just goes to show he has the ability to put up those numbers. Again, college is different than NFL, like you said, but still impressive. I also would like to go back to my 7-round mock draft. I had Michael Penix Jr. going, albeit in the 2nd round, to the Falcons. So like a little later, but still, I do like the idea of having somebody who's going to learn and grow under Kirk. And like Ra and Terry both said in the press conference, it's the Green Bay way. You saw it work with Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. Now, they're all very different people. Things work out. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But it's at least giving it a shot because you're setting yourself up for long term. everyone said, and even the Falcons brass said when they signed Kirk Cousins, this is win now mode. What about later? Do you want to just keep repeating the 4-year cycle, rinse, repeat, shuffle around and sign someone new? No, this is like a long-term thing. And I think even back to when Arthur Blank, after Arthur Smith was let go, both Arthurs in one sentence was hard, but they wanted to be in win now mode, and that's what they did with Kirk. But bringing in Raheem Morris also kind of set them up for a long term, and I think that's where the Michael Penix Jr. situation comes in. It's like they're checking both boxes.
Yeah, and something we're tiptoeing around is saying the word succession plan. And why I think that there probably is this tiptoeing to a certain extent is because Kirk Cousins hasn't played the first snap for the Atlanta Falcons. And we're already talking about 3, 4, 5 years down the road, someone like who they took tonight, Michael Penix Jr., taking over. And this guy hasn't even thrown a pass in a Falcons uniform. I think that's what's so difficult to come to terms with. But I have to go back to the point that you were making, Rack, about having this plan in place. And almost to a certain extent, and I even asked Terry Fontenot this question, and he didn't answer it how I thought he was, but that's okay. Or how I thought he would, but that's okay. I just can't help but imagine if you're Terry Fontenot, if you're Arthur Blank, and you're sitting there in 2020 and 2021 looking at the end of Matt Ryan's career. Now we know he played one more season or 2 more seasons after that, one with Atlanta, one with Indianapolis, and he's since retired, and we did all this fun retirement stuff with him, and I think really sent him off into retirement the right way. But something that Matt Ryan never had and this organization never had was a successor for Matt Ryan, an heir apparent for Matt Ryan. And I think because of that situation, it has put the light, it's really shined a really, really stark light on the quarterback position, even though they went out and got Kirk Cousins and are paying him all of this money. Because you look at it and it's like, look what happened when you didn't have a succession plan, a known succession plan in place for Matt Ryan. You go out, and we obviously know the failed attempt at picking up Deshaun Watson that, again, a couple days later, Matt Ryan gets traded to the Colts. A couple days after that, Marcus Mariota is now the quarterback. A couple months after that, Desmond Ridder is drafted. Marcus Mariota, let's be honest, it didn't work out. Desmond Ridder, let's be honest, it didn't work out. You can appreciate them for what they were at the time, just trying to bridge a gap between the Matt Ryan era in Atlanta to what is or what you hope comes next.
Kirk Cousins.
And now you have Kirk Cousins. Now you have someone in the building long term. And I use long term in relative sense because I feel like long term in NFL terms is actually short term in like life terms.
Yep.
But long term with Kirk Cousins, they didn't want to have to deal with this quarterback conundrum again. You don't want to make the same mistake twice. Not saying that what they did at the quarterback position beyond the 2 years after the Matt Ryan era ended here in Atlanta was a mistake or a bad decision, but
it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work, but it also set them up to where they are right now. Because you got to remember, they talked about it in the press conference tonight about this being a business decision, and it doesn't always make people happy, which that to me meant Kirk Cousins was probably not very happy, which guess what? I'm okay with that.
He has every right to be not happy.
He's got every right to be, number one.
He's a competitive dude.
And number two, you might actually get more out of Kirk Cousins now because he's going to be like, wait, you drafted a dude in the first round? Are you already thinking that I'm not going to work out? Then maybe
Lights
Kirk Cousins.
Fire.
Yeah, maybe Kirk Cousins goes out and throws for 4,500 yards this year, and all of a sudden he kind of answers all those questions for everybody, and it's not a big deal. But the business side of it too is you got to remember they were almost forced into that situation to go with Mariota, to go with Desmond Ridder because the money wasn't right, y'all.
Right.
They had to get to a position to where they could spend this year. They could go out and get a Kirk Cousins, and then they did feel comfortable drafting another quarterback in the first round because of what they did the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. The problem is the last 2 years didn't get you into the postseason, and everybody in the NFL is here to get into the postseason.
Yeah,
right?
And to that point too, Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot said multiple times, we don't believe that we're going to be in the position to get a top-level quarterback in the first round like we are right now when we have Michael Penix Jr. staring us in the face at number 8. We weren't willing to pass by that.
So let me ask you guys this question. Did you like that comment?
I did. I don't know. It was a clever way to phrase it.
Here's the thing. I think it absolutely aligns with what Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris want to portray outwardly. I think that they very, very much are two very confident individuals, and they've been talking a lot in this offseason about
championships.
But like aggression. They've used the word aggressive mindset over and over and over again, whether it be at the combine, whether it be in response to getting Kirk Cousins, whether it now be here we are where they've aggressively gone up or stayed at number 8 and gotten Michael Penix Jr. They've had this aggressive mindset, and they keep saying it's not arrogance, it's not cockiness, it's confidence. That's something they've said time and time again. And I think that's something that I don't know if this is like too philosophical or too big picture, but I think they're wanting to infuse some of that confidence back into the city of Atlanta to have Atlanta and the fan base be confident in what they're doing. And if they're confident in what they're doing, they hope that it relays that same confidence to the fan base.
Because here's what they're saying. They're saying, okay, we're not going to have the confidence saying we're not going to have another chance to be picking at 8. Right? We don't plan to be picking at 8, right? You look at there was 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first 12 picks today, okay? Guess what happens when that's the case? All those teams were not very good, okay? Guess who's not drafting in the top 8? Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens. Why is that? Because they don't have to, right? They found their guy. They're getting to the postseason. They're winning titles, and that's where Atlanta wants to be. That's where everybody in this organization wants to be. How do you get there? With a quarterback that balls, okay? So they went and got a guy that they've proven, that has proven himself that he can win football games, he can be a difference maker, set a record for the most comeback victories in a single season. But then they got another guy that absolutely tore up college football the last 2 years. And by the way, there was 3 Washington players drafted in the first round, and there's three more coming in the next couple, 2 wide receivers and a running back, right? A lot of that's a product of the quarterback that's there. He's distributing the football. Yes, offensive coordinator, coaching staff, all that. They get some credit as well. But Michael Penix is part of the reason why a lot of these guys are getting drafted.
Right. Yeah.
Get a really good player.
Yeah, I mean, they had that postseason run. And so to see Penix at a higher level when it comes to that division of sport, rather than, because I know college NFL, like you go back and forth between the level of severity of the play, but still where he was at in his career, he was at the pinnacle of it. So it's like now he transitioned to this next period and he can learn from someone who has already played the game, where he can take his time to get back to that level with the Falcons, where it's now instead of college postseason, it's NFL postseason.
I'm curious what y'all thought about the fact that let's put all the cards on the table. Michael Penix Jr. suffered 4 season-ending injuries before these last 2 years with Washington. I remember Terrin and I were at the Combine, and we were talking to Raheem Morris, and he said, and it's so funny how things come full circle, but he said, your heart, like the medical evaluations at the Combine either make or break you. And he was talking about this whole idea of like when you get that medical information and you find out more about these guys that you're potentially going to use high draft picks on, you're so worried about what that medical evaluation is going to say. And the fact that he said that to us then, I almost wonder if he was like planting a little seed about like this Michael Penix Jr. guy. I understand that he has this history, but you know, and it came up today because it's a natural question about his durability. But let's be honest too, it's been 2 seasons of him going 45,000 plus yards in back-to-back seasons. The only person who's done that in FBS since is Patrick Mahomes. Good company to keep. So how do y'all weigh? Wow, that was very country. How do y'all weigh this? Okay, this is the same guy that had 4 season-ending injuries, but he also, like what y'all are talking about, lit up college football the last 2 seasons.
I would say this. I would, you know, how we've heard Terry even today in a press conference say about every draft is different. I would think every medical evaluation situation is different, because I sat in the same studio about a week ago and we were talking about edge rushers, and we were talking about Laiatu Latu, and he had an injury at his neck when he was at Washington, albeit
medically disqualified from playing.
And there was and even tonight during the draft there was a piece where they said that they told him that he wasn't going to play football again. So there was question marks for him on one injury, okay? But yet Michael Penix Jr. basically has 4 injuries, and yet Atlanta is going to do all of their due diligence, and they still felt like they were comfortable with him at 8. So that's why sometimes when you hear, oh, this guy might have a medical issue, like what the average fan needs to understand is that the NFL has so much more information than what you read online, than what a draft pundit is telling you, that yes, they get a chance to talk to him, but like they don't fly them into town. They don't go across the country. They don't talk to every single high school coach, college coach, trainer. I mean, they are doing their due diligence before they invest $20+ million in a first-round draft pick. So yes, Michael Penix Jr. has a history of injuries. Atlanta did everything that they needed to. They felt comfortable with it. So how are you going to knock him for it? Now, is he going to get hurt in the NFL? We don't know.
No one knows.
Kirk Cousins coming off an injury. Aaron Rodgers coming off an injury. Guess what? This is a violent game. It happens. Okay? But that's why you have a plan in place. So the medical thing to me is such a necessity, but you can't just say, the kid got hurt in college.
So did I.
A lot of kids got hurt in college. And they're still playing in the National Football League, and there's probably a lot of Pro Bowlers that had torn up knees or bad necks or shoulders in college. It's just a part of this game.
Yeah. You know, let's wrap up with this. If you guys are looking 4 years down the road, let's just say 4 years down the road, what is the ideal situation for the Falcons? What is the plan that Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris are looking at, that they have a vision and they're trying to sell this fan base on it? What does that look like?
All right, I'm going to date myself here.
Go ahead.
I don't know how old you guys are, but you might have no idea what I'm talking about. So I can give you a personal situation. So when I was playing for this organization, we had a quarterback named Michael Vick, which I think most people would know. But then we drafted a guy named Matt Schaub. And Matt Schaub basically was a backup. He played in the preseason for a couple years, and he was actually my holder on the field goal unit. Okay? Nice. Well, guess what happened? Matt Schaub did enough in preseason games and a little bit when he filled in that the Houston Texans came and gave him a pile of money. Okay? So what happens is sometimes when you have, from a business decision standpoint, when you have a backup quarterback that everybody in the NFL probably had a first-round grade on, maybe an early second round, as you talked about, on Michael Penix, right? Let's just say Kirk Cousins goes out and he balls the next 3 years, takes the Falcons to the postseason. They win the division. He doesn't look like he's slowing down one bit. Everybody in the NFL knows who his backup is. They know how good of a player he is. Then maybe Terry ends up getting a phone call for a trade request for Michael Penix Jr. So yes, you don't want to sit there and talk about that might be his future, but guys, this is a business, and they are doing what they think is best for the organization. And if Kirk ends up handling his business, and yet they decide, you know what, he ain't slowing down, and he's going to be our quarterback for the next, let's just call it 5 years. Remember Trey Lance, first-round pick, got traded away from San Francisco to Dallas? Like, these are the type of situations that could end up happening. Or maybe Kirk doesn't put up the numbers that he thinks that he's capable of, that the organization wants to, and Michael Penix Jr. gets a chance, and he runs with it, and he becomes one of the great young quarterbacks. You just never know. But I know that they'll have options because they have a backup quarterback that is not a 7th-round guy, that's not an undrafted free agent, that is a proven first-round talent behind him. They will have options with Michael Penix Jr.
There's still even other courses this hypothetical could take. Kirk could still put up good numbers and decide he's done. I mean, he's going to be 36 when this season starts. He could be like, you know what, 4's enough. I'm hitting 40, I'm out. But then you have Penix, who could step in naturally, and having known and learned the offense, it'd be seamless, hopefully, ideally, in their case. Or there's another plot twist where if you do think about the quote-unquote Green Bay model, Cousins goes somewhere else. And then still Penix is entered flawlessly, kind of like Jordan Love was with the Packers. So there's so many different routes, but the point of this pick is they have that security. They have that option, whether it is keeping him in Atlanta or making bank off him leaving Atlanta.
Okay, I love that. That's a great note to end on. We have a very long weekend ahead of us, and it is almost 1 o'clock in the morning. My goal was to get us out of here, out of this podcast studio before 1 o'clock in the morning, and I am exactly 5 minutes shy. So thank you guys for joining me. Guys, make sure and check out all of our podcasts on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. We have a lot to talk about, and I know the Audible's going to be coming back after the draft ends. So
there's a lot of material to talk about this weekend. So yes, plenty to digest.
Yeah, there's more.
Yeah, lots more. A lot more late nights and early mornings. But thank you guys for joining me.
You bet.